Donald Trump just gave a disastrous speech before a very tiny crowd in Pennsylvania. He gave this speech at a trucking company, and he made the workers his props, but there were a lot of workers who did not want to be there. Donald Trump asked, "Hey, did anybody here not vote for me?" And there were many people who raised their hands from this tiny crowd. Let's play this clip.
Problem, and they'll blame me for causing problems. Who did not vote for Trump? Young man, he wants to be. He's a young man, he thinks he's being cute. As he gets pounded on. Now, he just said, no, I did. I was the first. He said, I'm the first to lie. But the Democrats voted in favor of Iran having a...
Yeah, you can see the person right behind Donald Trump there. Then he said, who wants to hear me make noises? And then he started making these weird noises. We'll play this clip right here. And he said, hey, everybody, anybody on the fat drug? Anybody take the fat drug here? I know that's a thing. Here, play this clip.
We paid the highest drug price in the world by far. As an example, for the fat drug, which Bo and Tony don't need to take, but a lot of people are taking. Who takes the fat drug? So in New York, think of it, it was costing a fortune.
Then he went on to say that everybody here are really muscular and you have strong muscles, strong men, no women, which is nice. You know, the muscles, lots of muscles, he says. Let's play this clip.
I mean, these are the strongest, toughest men on earth. No women in the crowd, but which is nice. But these are the toughest men on earth, and it's tremendous pressure. And you know, the muscles, you got the muscles, you guys, you got the big, strong muscles, but you got this muscle too, because it takes much more than just the normal muscle to win those matches. I mean, the strategy and the genius that goes in it is a genius. A lot of people wouldn't understand that, but there's a genius. There's a genius in sports, but there's a great amount of courage and power that you have that a lot of other people don't have. So congratulations, really great job. Great.
He then says, hey, there's this UFC fighter, Bo Nickel, and he's got great muscles, and I have muscles. I'm older than him, but we got muscles. Here's what Donald Trump says. Let's play this clip.
Oh, this guy, well, I just have to set it up a little bit if I don't mind. Because I'm thinking, you know, I'm a similar size. I weigh more than he does, actually. So therefore, I have a tremendous physical advantage over him. His muscles are slightly harder and slightly younger. He's a lot younger. But I think I can do it because I'm a great athlete. He knows I'm a very good golfer. And I'm much better off on the golf course against him than I'm in the wrestling, man. But he went virtually undefeated. I mean, he won 4 years. He was the top wrestler. His friend, Tony, who's another champion, who I'll introduce you to, Tony. But these two guys were on the Penn State team. And Bo Nickel went... I mean, you couldn't defeat the guy. And then he had every battle.
And then Donald Trump says, you know, I got a friend of mine, and he's this really rich guy, real estate developer, and he gets very nervous to do public speeches, everybody. Does that interest you? Here, play this clip.
A friend of mine is a very big real estate developer, but he's got a problem with speaking in front of crowds. He chokes, you know, he chokes like a dog. He said, how do you do it? I say, it's easy because there's so much love in the room. There's so much unbelievable love. It's easy to do, you know? No, he's got this tremendous fear of speaking. He said, the guy's a major player. Most of you have heard of him. And he's a killer. He destroys people for a living, financially, not physically, financially. Physically, he can barely walk. He's a basket case. But he's up here. He's very smart. And he destroys people. He's very rich, but he can't get up in front of a crowd and talk. I said, what's wrong with you? He said, I don't know. I have a fear of crowds. Do you believe it? All sorts of people. You know, a lot of people want to do what I did. A lot of people, well, David did it. David was very successful, but he's a great speaker. But a lot of people, they say, well, Trump became president from being a very successful businessman. He became president. I want to do it too. And that's when they find out that they might have the flaw of speaking, or even worse, is a terrible past. You know, the past will come out to haunt you. It's not an easy thing to do, but I love it. You know?
Then Donald Trump said, hey, I want to share with everybody that the king of Saudi Arabia said we were a dead country 2 years ago. Thought that everybody here would like to know that. Okay, here, play this clip.
Dead country. People were laughing. They were saying, what the hell happened to that country? The king of Saudi Arabia said it 2 years ago. I was over there. He said, you know, sir, 2 years ago you were a dead country, and now you're the hottest country anywhere in the world. It's true. And we're hotter now than we were then.
And he said, and then I went and I met Xi Jinping of China, and he said, man, you're so fast, Donald. That's what Xi Jinping told me, he says. Let's play this clip.
The United States, 2 years ago, they wouldn't even think of it. They thought we were finished. When I went to China 2 weeks ago, I met with President Xi, and we greeted each other, and he looked at me and said, man, do you move fast? Because they thought they had us, but now it's really the opposite. We are doing numbers that nobody's ever seen before. So it's great.
He's like, all right. How bad was the Obama-Iran deal, right? Obama gave Iran $1.7 billion in green cash. He gave them hundreds of billions of dollars. Unlike me, Donald, your deal is so much worse than Obama's JCPOA. You've literally given Iran everything they've wanted and more. There's not going to be IAEA inspections. There's not any multilateral enforcement mechanism. And you got us into a catastrophic and unlawful war. You destroyed the global economy. You're going to cause the Fed to raise interest rates. You screwed the economy over this, and you were doing it before. But here's what Donald Trump says. Let's play it.
Remember this. We had to make this detour. We had to go to Iran. You can't let them blow up the Middle East and then us, if that's possible. We would have gotten them before, but they would have blown up Israel. They would have blown up the entire Middle East. You can't let that. You want to see a bad economy? That's a bad economy. So, but remember that our oil in the middle of this conflict was less than it was for sleepy Joe Biden. And we're putting out a fire. Biden, Clinton, Bush, all of them. Barack Hussein Obama. Have you heard of him? Have you heard of Barack Hussein Obama? None of them did anything. Obama gave them $1.7 billion in green cash. Remember, on a 747, they flew over piles of cash. $1.7 billion, gave them hundreds of billions of dollars, and thought they could bribe them into peace. No, the only thing they understand is what these guys in the front row understand, is the hammer. Because if you look at what we did to their nuclear capacity with those beautiful B-2 bombers, that was truly a hammer. In fact, we named it a hammer. Operation Hammer.
And he goes, everybody, guess what I did in Iran too? We're leaving them with no Navy, no Air Force, no aircraft, no missile capability, no nuclear program, no capacity. They've agreed to everything. They are agreeing to full surrender. This is just an utter lie. I mean, the United States lost this war big time to Iran. It's not even close. Iran has gotten everything they've wanted and more. Donald Trump has given sanctions waivers, unfreezing of funds. Iran and Oman control the Strait of Hormuz. But this is what he says. I mean, he's just a liar. And it makes America so much damn weaker with all of these lies. And this is what he's saying in front of the trucking company workers. Let's play this clip.
And other people, other countries too. We're not the only one that never did anything. They were the bully of the Middle East. And now we're leaving Iran with no Navy, no Air Force, no anti-aircraft, no missile capability, no nuclear program. We're leaving them without any nuclear capacity, and they've agreed to that. And we're getting along quite well, although if you read the fake news, you never know. Think of it. The fake news, they have no Army, they have no Navy, they have no Air Force, they have no anti-aircraft. We can fly over Tehran just at will. Nobody going to do anything to us. And then I read the fake news that they're doing quite well. They're not doing quite well.
And Donald Trump's like, all right. Let's talk about the market. Everybody's 401k, right? A lot of people here have 401ks. I've made you richer. I made you richer. Here, play this clip.
People have come up to me, David, and they thanked us. 401ks, you know, the stock market. Who has a 401k here? Yeah, look, a lot of people. More Americans are working.
And then Donald Trump says, by the way, you did not make them richer. You know, there are lots of people who don't partake in the market. The market, by the way, had an awful day today as well. Interest rates are going to be increasing and people are struggling out there. People are suffering right now. Then Donald Trump said, you know, I got to tell everybody a story here in Pennsylvania. I went to New York and there was a police officer who said with tears in his eyes, "Sir, you saved my marriage. My wife thought I was stupid. And now, because of the stock market, she thinks I'm Warren Buffett." Here, play this clip.
And the typical 401k, as you know, is up almost $30,000 in, it was 12 months, it was 13 months. It's up 44%. Think of that, up 44%. Because, you know, as goes the stock market, so goes a lot of your own wealth. And I tell about this police officer. I met a police officer first time, similar thing, but now the numbers are even more. I was in New York. I met a great police officer, New York finest. And he said, "Sir, I want to thank you." I said, "For what?" He said, "My wife didn't think much of me, very much. We were having marital difficulty, actually. She thought I was nothing. I'm a police officer. I'm a tough guy." I looked at him. The muscles were all over the place. He didn't suffer from that. But she thought maybe that muscle wasn't so good because he was always losing money in the stock market. And he said, "Sir, in the last year and a half, my 401k is up 74%, sir. And she thinks I'm Warren Buffett. She thinks I'm a super genius."
Then Donald Trump said that he is, obviously it's a lie and it's a deranged lie. He goes, "I uncovered that in California, this kid Pratt, who was running for mayor of Los Angeles, they were rigging the elections. They defeated him." Then Trump said, "Then I called the United States attorney in California and I told him, I said, you've got to go and meddle with this election. And we stopped it from being rigged for Steve Hilton, the Republican. And that's why that's why a Republican was able to get to the next round on the governor's race." I mean, this is so utterly deranged stuff. Here, play this clip.
Allowed to ask that. Did you know that? It's the craziest thing I've ever seen going on. Hey, did they screw the kid, Pratt? Boy, he's leading, and all of a sudden he's lost. And it was sort of interesting. The election, you ever see an election where they're 2.5 weeks in? An election that takes weeks to count the votes? But after the evening, it looked like he was going to win or certainly be in the runoff. And then I started hearing rumors as the days went by, days and days went by, that Pratt is fading. He's fading. I said, they rigged the election. And then lo and behold, he didn't qualify, even though he was so far up in the third place person that it was almost impossible, and he didn't qualify. And then it started happening with the next candidate, Steve Hilton, who's running for governor. He was up in front, just about leading, no problem. And all of a sudden, about 4 or 5 days after, this is after the election's over, they said, Steve Hilton is starting to lose votes. I said, here we go again. And I called up the U.S. attorney in California. They said, we're going to have a number in the next week. Next week. I called up the very powerful, very good U.S. attorney in California, and I said, do me a favor. Take a look. They're trying to steal that election, too. I guess they called up. They said, this is the U.S. attorney call. We have your great U.S. attorney here today, by the way, and your assistant U.S. attorney. They're doing great. David, thank you. But so over the next week, he was definitely going to lose, but the U.S. attorney called. We want to check your votes. About an hour after the call, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Hilton has won. So had I not made that call, Steve Hilton would right now be watching the election from home. So I don't know, he would have a great chance, but the election's totally rigged. California's totally rigged. All mail-in ballots. It's a disgrace.
And Donald Trump didn't even know why he was in Pennsylvania in the first place. And he said, I'm here for a congressman. Where are you, Mr. Congressman? Where are you? Again, he has no clue the name of the congressman for the congressional district that he's in. Play this clip.
We got to get a certain very talented congressman reelected. You know that. We got to get him. Where are you? Where are you, Mr. Congressman? We got to get you back in.
And then he concludes the speech by saying he's got a fat friend who is a slob who says he's taking the fat drug, but is still fat. And he says, all right, everybody, I'll see you later. Here's what he says. Let's play it.
Who takes the fat drug? So in New York, think of it, it was costing a fortune. Many, many times it was costing $1,300. And in London, it was $87. And a friend of mine who's extremely fat, sloppy, but very brilliant. He's a brilliant businessman, but he's a slob. There's no question about it. Very neurotic person, which you need sometimes to be successful. But he called me up. He used to call me Donnie. Donnie! Now he calls me Mr. President. That's a sign of great respect. But he said, President, I just came over here and I bought, I won't say Ozempic or whatever the hell it was, but I bought the fat drug. I said, I didn't know you used it because it's not working. And I use him as, he's begging me not to use his name, so I won't. But he's a very successful guy. He's actually a pretty well-known guy, brilliant business guy, worth a lot of money. And he checked. He just, he said, well, how come in London I just sent out and...
That was Trump's speech in Pennsylvania, everybody. Remember when presidents used to actually be intelligent, inspiring, articulate, normal leaders? Yeah, you ain't seeing that there. But it seemed like the crowd hated it. Everybody hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.